Hey, we're Kurt and Danette Share with the Broken for Better podcast.
Yeah, and together we're on a mission to equip and empower marriages. We want to strengthen families for everyday life.
Enjoy the episode.
What's going on? We are back again.
Yes.
And this time it is D and I together. Wait, actually it just triggered me. You don't like when I call you that.
I don't.
It just hit me in my head and I call you that 100
Do you know why? Do you actually remember
I
why?
remember why you told me. You said, well, I think the last time I said this, I was
This
like,
is going to sound awful.
welcome back. This is how we're starting. I said, don't you like when I call you D? And you said no. And I said, why? And she goes, that's not my name.
No,
I
that
was like,
wasn't why at all. Growing up, the lunch lady, like picture like the cartoon lunch lady that was like really scary. She was like
I can't
very
picture that. I don't
domineering
know
and
what
like
that is.
slinging the food. That her name was D. And so I hated when people would call me D because I felt like they were calling me the same name as the lunch lady. That sounds awful.
If you are a lunch lady watching, we love you.
I
and
love
we
all
very
lunch
appreciate
ladies.
it. I'm sure you're a nice lunch lady.
I was thankful for my lunch. I just wasn't thankful for how the lunch lady treated me.
Well, can we redeem the name?
Okay, sure.
Okay, we'll
Whatever.
redeem the name. So
All right.
we're back with D and I. And today we get to talk about something that we love. We get a lot of feedback when we do any podcast on parenting.
Mhm.
Last week or a couple weeks ago, I was able to do one with Tim, and
Mhm.
that was amazing from that point of view on fatherhood and raising kids. And today, you and I just get to talk it up, chop it. We have some great topics that we're going to go through over the next few weeks. But today I picked a topic, and now here's the way. You guys know how we do this. It's conversation. It used to be conversation on a couch, but now we're in two chairs. We're upgrading, y'all. We're going places.
Yeah.
We got big fancy lights. It's great. But today, I thought this is what I would lob out there for us to go.
Okay.
First topic is going to be getting the most out of your children and teaching them to dream big. Now, getting the most out of your children and teaching them to dream big. This was big for me, especially for you. And I'll tell you kind of the why behind the what. You were absolutely amazing at really getting our boys to see further than themselves.
Mm.
I mean, it was something to watch. And I think from a dad's point of view, sometimes we get so like, just do what I say and follow the rules. You know what I mean? And they just learn through this work, but you always got to get them like, and always, even if they couldn't see it, you got to get them to see farther than themselves. And it was awesome to watch. So today I just kind of wanted to chop that up, ask a couple questions and go from there. Is that an okay topic?
Yeah, that's an okay. I love that topic, actually.
You love that topic. Okay,
Yeah,
great.
Yeah.
So
Good memories attached to that topic, I think.
what's probably one of the biggest dreams you thought you'd coach one of our kids?
Oh, like one particular dream?
Just one that you remember that like stuck out.
Oh my gosh, like there's so many. I don't know if there's like one. I think for me, I wanted them to try everything. Like their dreams change, right? Just like you and I as adults now and as kids, like I don't know about you, but I think when I was 9 or 10, I wanted to be a nurse, and then I wanted to be a lawyer, and then I wanted to be this, and I wanted to be that. And I think our dreams changed and our passions changed. So I think for me it was more so trying to allow them to experience everything under the sun, and then that way they would know. Instead of saying, "Hey, I want you to do this. You're going to be a piano player. You're going to be this." It was more encouraging them to find their passions. And so that kind of dwindled down. It's kind of that, what is that called when you put like oil in a funnel? Yes, kind of like a funnel. So the boys tried everything. They tried every sport. They tried different kinds of music. They tried all the different things. And some of them were really quick, very early on to say, "I don't like that. I don't want to do that." But I just wanted to nurture their creativity and the things they were passionate about. And some of those things, like I knew they would probably never be long term, right? Like they weren't going to become like a pro football player, especially like our youngest because he was tiny and little, and all those things. But like how do you nurture and let them try out things so that you're not holding them back. They get to see what they're successful at and what they thrive in and what they don't thrive in, you know?
Okay.
Yeah.
So my first question was, What are some key values that you wanted to instill in them? You dove right into that. I was asking, what
Uh,
is one thing that you told them to dream big? That was an amazing answer, and I'm with you.
I
I'm with you all the way. I'm like, "Oh, wow, she just went right in," and I love it. I love it. Think about something that you had them dream, though, to a size. I remember, like, one for me.
yeah, I need an example because I guess I'm drawing a blank. I
Oh, no,
want
you're gonna remember.
I don't know.
And all boy and this is what I loved, and this is what and I remember your words with him, like, and I can tell you the whole scenery, so everything you just said, you lived to a T. I'll never forget when my oldest son, Dylan, he's my, like, organized, none of his food touched each other, I mean, it was just that kinda thing, you know what I
He
mean?
compartmentalized everything,
Compartmentalized
yes.
everything, and I'll never forget the time that somehow, I don't even know what really created it, but he came home and was gonna be a comic book designer,
Oh, yeah, he was in, like, 1st grade.
and he was gonna
1st
draw
or 2nd grade.
and sell comic books.
Yeah.
Now, y'all, I so dads a lot of times we're gonna be like, "You ain't gonna make no money doing that. Can you even draw?" Like, I mean, like, is it were you like, "Okay, do one.
He
Bring it
had
to me."
he had a killer stick figure, like, killer.
Right,
That's
if
what
that's
all
the
of
kinda
his
comic book you like, you are in.
yeah, all of yeah.
But I'll never forget, like, I'm looking at this piece of art in this book that he's going, and I'm like, in my head, I'm thinking, he's gonna live with us the rest of his life because he's not gonna make any money. But
Stop.
his mom is like, "You got this, kid. I'm gonna go get you some color pencils, and we're gonna get some books, and we're gonna do this
I'm like,
thing."
"How are we gonna market it? What's the name of the company? What is it gonna be? We're gonna go all in." That's right,
It
yeah,
was crazy,
absolutely.
and I'm like, "Wait, are you seeing something different than what I see? Like, I don't know that this is." And I remember I bought his first comic book. I still have the Joker, so he did
I
sell a
think
comic.
he used to sell them for 1 or $2, and he personalized them to your story.
It was
It
all
was
no,
yeah.
the concept was amazing, but what I loved and what I'll never forget there, and it was really a challenging moment to me too, because I think we get so addicted, especially as men sometimes, that we just, well, let's just speak truth. You know, I'm not gonna breathe smoke at this kid, and it's never. And there is times to be truthful, and there is times to
Mhm.
go, "Hey, this isn't working," or "Hey, how do we reevaluate, or how do we relook at this?" But there's also times to go,
Yeah.
"Hey, let me undergird you and hold your arms up and really help you catapult to be everything that you desire to be. Let's walk it out and see how it goes."
Yeah, I think for me, I wanted them to just to dream, and I think so often we're more concerned about the possibility of failure instead of the possibility of trying, and so did I think that he might be the next, I don't know, circus or whatever that the little cartoon was in the newspaper every Sunday, that I think he was gonna
Oh,
be
that was a
that
great comic.
Yes,
Well
remember?
done, girl.
Or, Calvin and Hobbes, that it was he gonna
I wasn't a big Calvin and Hobbes.
but I just wanted him to dream, and I think with each of the boys, they each had concepts, that over the years, like, Logan wanted to be, like, he had his hibachi games and was wanting to become, like, the next, Mr. Beast or whatever, and then you had, Nathan had his garage band, and he was in there just grinding because he was gonna be the next,
Well, that
musical
was after he
star.
was gonna be a magician.
Yes, he was gonna be a magician. Oh, okay, let me tell you what, there's nothing more stressful this is a little sidebar, than watching your 1st grade son say, "For show and tell, it's my time, and I'm going to show them my magic act." And I remember being like, "Oh, dear Lord." Like, this is either gonna be amazing or he's gonna be so teased, like, so we practiced and we practiced and we practiced, and he nailed it,
Nailed it.
and man, he was so cool that whole year, people thought he was so cool, but it's scary to watch your
Yeah.
kids dream because we don't have control over the success and the failure of that dream, and so that's scary.
You know,
It's
where
scary.
really, and I'll tell you, fast forward that from that comic book little conversation that we had, what it really taught me was as he got older and then started forging a path of his own, one that he could walk out and one that he could
Hmm.
set aside when he started businesses and when he started doing his own thing. I found myself in a different seat, not breathing negatives at him, but really finding myself going, man, how do I like encourage and empower this? How do I undergird this? And what do I do to push this thing forward? Because he's seeing something. And man, what I learned back when he was drawing comic books was, man, let's just keep beating that mule and going and going and going
Yeah.
until we can't go anymore. you
But
know?
it's hard because so often our first instinct is to wanna poke holes, right? Like, "Have you seen this
Mm.
hole? Have you seen what could happen? Have you seen" and that's true even now having adult children, right? There's things that they wanna try, and they can be scary for us
You
as
almost
parents.
kill dreams before they start.
Yeah, because you wanna poke holes and be like, "Okay, but have you seen this?" Instead of saying, "No," like, let them dream, let them decide, and then sometimes they just freaking shock you, like, the things that they do, and it's because we want them to have somewhere to fall back on, even if the dream doesn't work.
Yeah.
Are we undergirding the dreams so that they have somewhere to run if it doesn't work or if it does fail?
Yeah.
Erwin McManus talks about failure, and he had so many different businesses. He's got this unbelievable church mosaic out in California, LA area, all these different things, but he said it all started from different failures. Like, he would try something and it would work, but wouldn't work to the degree he wanted to, so he'd sell it and he'd try something new. And so he's like, we so
Mm.
often aren't creative, which is what God literally, he's a creative God. Like, he spoke the world into existence. So if we want to live a life that's just like God, we're also creative beings. And so
Yeah.
we've got to not be fearful to, try new things. Think of his creation and some of the animals he created. Some of them are a little odd, like he got some that were beautiful and some you're like, "What is a
What's
platypus?
what's a beautiful animal? Like,
What's a beautiful
tell me
animal?"
one you think is beautiful.
A peacock is pretty freaking cool.
Do you think so?
Yes, I do. I think so. But then
Um,
a platypus, I mean,
yeah, what's a
that's a little
platypus?
odd, right? But, like, even he was like, "You know what? We're gonna do different things," and they're all beautiful in their own way. Okay, anyways, that's my
I'm
little
stuck on a peacock. I'm like, that's the most beautiful animal you can come up with?
what do you think is the most beautiful animal? This has nothing to do with
Oh, I don't
parenting.
know. I feel like there's so many. I'm down. I honestly, okay, this is gonna date me a little bit, but
Wait.
I'm fascinated. If you put like a real good Clydesdale in front of me
Okay,
with the
Clydesdales are
white
pretty
hooves and the
cool.
big, I mean, that's a mammoth. A lion, like a real, ooh.
Okay, you're thinking of, like, very masculine. I think mine's more, like, pretty. Anyways, I don't
Okay.
I don't know.
Um, so let's do this. Here's what I'd like to go to next. I'm gonna ask you this question. What big moments have our children had because leaping out was something that we taught them? Think of one or two times in our kids' lives where you encourage them, you empower them, and then you watch them move into it.
Hmm. You know what, one that's funny, and it kinda goes back to Nathan's musical thing, but I remember when he felt like he wasn't enough, right, to play on a worship team or he didn't have enough skill and all of that, and he was so stuck between 2 different avenues. Do I want to do varsity sports this year? Do I wanna do this? Because he couldn't do both. There was just not enough time in the day. And he wanted us to decide for him for a while. Remember, I don't know if you remember that. He was like, "I need a decision, and I just don't know which one," and blah, 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 blah. And I think we challenged him, this is something that you can't really go right or wrong. I don't think God's gonna reward one or the other, and I think that sounds a little different because you would think, well, worship would be the more godly thing, right? But God can use us on a baseball field or
100%.
on a worship team. So it wasn't like this right or wrong. It was a, "Hey, this is something you've got to decide and pray about." And so he did. He made it a matter of prayer. He also happened to break his arm that Christmas, which kinda sealed the deal with one of them. But yeah, he tried, and I remember him being so excited when he made that team thinking, "I don't add up," and yet I was still given the
Yeah.
chance to be a part of something that was really exciting.
Yeah, it was a big deal to him.
Yeah, that I think because again, the easier choice would be to pick for your kids. "Hey, I think you should do this. This is the choice you should make."
Yeah.
And it really wasn't our choice to make. Either one could be right.
Yeah.
It's just about their passions and what has God gifted you to do in this season, you know?
Yeah, when I wrote that question, I kind of contemplated on it a little bit because I'm like, well, there are times that we like told our children, and I think if we did anything well, we did that really well with our kids. We walked alongside of them because ultimately, at the end of the day, if it succeeded, man, we're going to be your biggest cheerleaders, and we're going to be part of that, like that succeeding, and we're going to rejoice. But if it failed, I never wanted a moment where you looked at us and went,
Mhm.
You told me to do that, and now it failed, and now look at me.
Yeah.
So we always want to make sure, like, hey, let's talk about pros and cons.
Mhm.
Let's talk about where we're going to be at the end of this, and let's talk about our end game. And then after that, man, let's just go for it.
Yeah, and we tried to not speak too much into that because it wasn't our future, it's theirs.
Yeah.
It's not our assignment, it's theirs. And so we wanted to undergird, like, the choices that they were making and the dreams they were having instead of dictating for them what they should or shouldn't do,
Yeah,
you know?
I see in a lot of times with, especially, I talk to probably more dads than moms, but I do
Probably.
talk to more
Yeah,
dads than moms, no
that would be
problem about it.
healthy.
Uh,
Hmm.
but I think one of the areas that I see is kind of a hang up for some dads is this idea that we kind of live vicariously through our children, right? Like we have
Yeah.
these dreams for them before they can, and look, they work out. You always hear the stories where, man, my dad put a club in my hand when I was 2, and now look at me, I'm on the PGA tour. So yes, I get it works, right?
Mhm.
But I think so many times I've also seen that we so have these dreams for our children that we start charting the course and we start dictating it, that then when they get old enough to dream themselves,
Mm.
they almost don't even know how to dream.
Yeah.
Like, should I take a step of leap of faith like that? Should I go out on a limb? Ooh, I don't know. I've never had to do that because my whole life has been pushed towards me of this is what you will do, this is what you will be. And now I'm out here on my own. Now I got a dream, and it's like, I don't know if I can. I've never even worked this muscle and learned how to do it.
Yeah.
And so I'd really encourage like parents out there to go start early dreaming with your children.
Mm.
I'll never, man, we wanted all, you were a softball player, I was a baseball player. We wanted all of our kids to play that.
Yeah.
And
I
that first one that looked at us and was like, that's boring.
Yeah, Dylan had, like, the long, lanky body for, like, a pitcher, and I was like, "He's gonna be our pitcher," and he was like, "Yeah, I don't like baseball." And I remember being gutted. I'm like, "Okay, wait, this is not about me. Like, this is about
I thought when you
him."
grounded him, that was a little too much.
Yeah. I
But
was like, "Stay in your room." No, I'm kidding. No, I yeah, and again, like, their dreams and their goals, whether or not they fail or succeed, I think another point that I want to make sure parents hear is that we didn't always get right, but we tried so hard. Even if there was a direction we thought our kids should go towards, but they chose the other, to still be there. Like their value and their worth
mm,
wasn't directly attached to their choice that they made. Their value and their worth wasn't directly attached to whether or not we agreed with the choice that they
yeah.
made. And that goes, into today and tomorrow and like our kids are going to pick differently than us at times. And that's their right. They have a free will.
When you say that, it reminds me of how many times you and I sat on the soccer field watching Logan,
Yeah.
not having a clue what was happening
We did not
in the
understand
beginning.
soccer.
We're like, he chose this sport, loved it, was passionate about it. We're sitting there like, what just happened?
I
How
was
do I think
like
they were offsides? What's offsides?
17 years in, and I was like, "I still don't like the offsides rule. This doesn't make sense to me. He was just fast. He
He's
should be
fast.
able.
Like,
Like, let him do it. I don't understand this rule."
uh,
Yeah, but you're so right. Yeah, there were so many times we did. But again, like, no matter what their passion is, like, cheer them on and they might fail, and that's okay. That's okay, but their value isn't attached to that.
so run that out a little more and just giving, and I put this on here too. Like, what advice would you give to a parent who that's kind of fearful for them? So think about this. Like,
Hmm.
you haven't grown up potentially knowing how to dream,
Hmm.
like chasing dreams, doing the things that excite you. That's not a muscle you worked. You don't know how to do it. And so now you're a parent, and all you really know is this is what you'll do. This is what you'll be. This is, and now you're out here and your kid wants to dream and you're kind of fearful. Like, what advice would you give to a parent that's a real struggle? Because it is a real struggle.
Hmm. I think honestly, I would ask that parent, "Did you like the box that you were put in?"
Okay. Before you go there, what if they don't know that's a box?
I think we all know that if we've been placed in a box and, like, we weren't allowed to dream, I think we all know what that feels like. When we had to
Yeah, that is
like,
true.
we had to measure up or we had to meet someone else's expectations or someone else's goals.
Mm,
I think we all know what that feels like, no matter what the extreme may be. That might have been a teacher that expected something out of you, and you're a creative learner, and they wanted you to test well, and your brain just didn't work that way, and you just didn't level up. And instead of encouraging you and championing you to be better.
100%. Yeah, you're right.
So I think for me, it would be just to question your own self because often it's easier for us to reflect on the way things feel for ourselves than to get in someone else's shoes, even our kids. So to ask yourself, man, how does that make me feel when someone tells me what I have to be or wants something from me that I don't feel I'm called to do, but now this is an expectation placed on me. We all know what that feels like. And so if we don't want that ourselves, whether or not that's in a friendship, a marriage, a job, then we shouldn't want that for our kids either. We want them to be everything that God created them to be. And that normally has multiple different facets. And it doesn't have to be
Mhm.
this, or this. It could be all three, it could be 10 different things. But we want to pull out what's passionate for them
Yeah.
because they have a different thumbprint, a different fingerprint than we do.
Yeah, I would encourage when I thought about this, I was like, man, what would I tell that? And I would really say the same thing, like, what drives your fear?
Hmm.
Like, if you're scared for your children to dream and to dream big, what's driving that? And if it's failure, like, I don't want them to fail. Well, lots of people have learned through failing.
Hmm.
You know, if it's, well, that's not what I had predicted for them, well, they have to live their own life. Like, there's so much beyond that question that I would really encourage you, like, if you're having a struggle, um, I man, it just takes me back to my own childhood. I'll never forget playing Baseball Stars on the Nintendo. You don't know about that life,
Baseball
but that was a
stars.
real
Do,
game.
do, 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 do,
Uh,
do.
uh,
No,
wait,
that was a different song. That
I
was
think that
Mario
was Mario
Brothers.
Brothers, but
Sorry.
Baseball Stars wasn't far from that.
Yeah, they were all pretty similar. They had like 3 different chords and
They had one guy that just
yeah.
played.
They were like, "Joe, we need another one."
Anyway, I was playing this game, and I'll never forget when my dad walking up, and we had probably been playing way too long in his eyes, like 30 minutes or something. And
30 minutes, yeah,
how long
right.
do we play games now? But and him going, "What are you doing? You could never make any money doing that." And like, you knew you could never make money playing video games, right? Like, you just knew that. And now there's millionaires
Yeah,
playing video games.
you're right.
And it's like these things that you go, "Oh, that's just," as a parent where you go, "That's just dumb, and that'll never go anywhere."
Hmm,
Man, the way our world's progressing, everything goes somewhere.
right.
Like, I mean, man, entrepreneurs can make it happen.
Yeah,
And so it's really pushing and fueling that dream to go, "Come on, man, let's do this thing." But if there's a fear there, find out where the fear's coming from.
yeah.
And if that fear is something deep within you, maybe it was you as a little boy, somebody told you you couldn't, and so now it's you know nothing else to say you can't. When the reality is, no, maybe they can.
Mhm.
Like, just find out what's driving that so that you can be the one that's like, man, empowering. I want my boys to always remember, man, I did some crazy things in life, and I always had one champion. Now I always tell my boys the pros and cons. Like, there's good stuff that can happen, but you gotta think about this stuff too. Like,
Yeah.
how does this look, and what does this look like, and how does this support your now they're married, so how does it support your family, and what's your wife think about this? Like, we have those conversations. It's just not all rainbows and butterflies, but man, I just want them to know that, man, there
Mhm.
was one guy that always was like, "Yeah, let's get in the let's do it, and I'm in the trench with you, man. What's it gonna look like?" We're
Yeah.
gonna figure this thing out.
One thing that I think we also tried to do that I would encourage other parents would be, if our kids did decide to do something, whether or not it was make a comic book, play baseball, soccer, football, choir, whatever it was, they had to commit fully. So if you're gonna play baseball and 3 days into a 9-week season, you decide you don't like it, we're gonna finish because sometimes you don't know until you try, or sometimes you don't know till you complete something, and so if you're going to start something, you're at least going to finish it. And we also had to take a back seat sometimes to maybe what like we kinda touched on before, our dreams and goals. If they wanted to stop something at the end of a season and you're like, "Man, I really loved watching you play this," or "I loved watching you do this one thing. I can't believe you're finished with this thing." Allowing them to lead those
Mhm.
moments when they came to an end, but also keeping them encouraged to keep pushing to at least finish it and finish it well, because we are firm believers of how you finish a season is how you will start another. Um, for me, when you talk about dreaming, I think it's almost easier for me to encourage and champion my kids to dream than my own self. And I don't know the reason why. I think my parents were great at, like, allowing me to try everything, like, I had my hands in everything. I would be running from one event to the next, whether it was band or
No,
whatever.
you
I took
did
piano and then
wild.
I'd cheered and then I also did softball. I had all these different avenues that I wanted to try. My parents did so great with that. But when it came to a lot of life change, like my parents, were still in the same home that they've got married in. And so change for me was really hard. And yet champion that word is so hard for me to say. Cheering, I'm gonna say cheering. Cheering my boys on to try new things um, I think is easier for me than to actually try new things myself.
Hmm.
And I think we can go either way with that. When we struggle with change, we can either cheer on the next generation to do more or we hold them tightly as well and say, "Listen, we don't do this. We don't change."
Yeah.
And so you might find yourself in one category or the other. And for
That's
some
funny because
reason
my next thing I was gonna ask you was like, as parents, can you think of a couple different ways that if we wanted our kids to dream big and go out there, what are some ways that we modeled that in our lives
Mm,
in some different seasons that they got to see that actually in action? Because I believe, like much like what you said, like, man, your parents allowed you to do everything, but you saw your dad work for the same company.
mhm.
You saw your mom run the same.
Which is fine. It's not like
It's
that's yeah, yeah,
wonderful.
yeah.
Live in a house for 50 plus years is great, but there wasn't like this. They didn't have like this must, or maybe they did have dreams. They just never went after them. You know what I mean? Like never. So how did we as parents let's talk about a couple scenarios where we just were like big and small, because we have some big ones that I could think of, and then some smaller ones where it was just like, man, let's just go and see what happens.
Yeah. I think even as a couple, we dream differently. You're the doer and the goer. Like you'll launch. Like you're like, "Hey, there's a bridge. Let's jump."
Sometimes I like to get into my dream before it's actually a full dream.
Yeah. And we can have points of contention there because you'll feel like I'm poking holes like in you, but what I'm trying to do is find all of the possibilities.
Yeah.
Like what are the scary things? What are the things that could go wrong? What are the things that could go right? And so, when we moved out to Louisiana, that was a huge leap for us. We took our boys halfway across the country. We didn't know hardly anyone, very few people. It was kind of like being missionaries in some far. It could have been Africa for all we knew because we didn't know that many people. It was very, very far. But for us, we had to make sure that we were on the same page
Mm.
and that God was for us and in it. I think God's always for you, right? He's not against you, his word says that. But there are some things that he's having you dream towards.
Yeah.
Like he literally gave me dreams regarding that big move, but um yeah, I think trusting that each other is seeking the Lord so we can make those big decisions. I think hopefully we tried our best to instill that in our boys.
Yeah.
Like you and your spouse need to be on the same page.
I think that's one of the boys kind of went along with that dream, right? Like we prayed and they went with that. I can remember a season that we showed up at a church that we had been praying for God. We were in a little transition,
Mm,
and we had been praying for God to give our boys a place that they could find community and that
yeah.
they could find a ministry that would be good for them. And I remember going to a place and them coming out the first night of the student ministry going, "Can we please come back?" And in that, I remember us kinda going like, "Okay, this is what we prayed for. We're gonna follow, like, we're gonna now leap in and follow their dreams. Man, if you love this place, we feel good about this place. Man, let's go into that." And they watched that. Like,
Mhm.
man, we empowered that and we gave them the ability to speak their truth on what they felt about this place and what they were learning even in night one. And I remember, like, they just saw that. They saw that movement, that we were always willing and open, and, man, let's see what God says, and then if we feel in our soul, man, let's just go after this thing. I think
Yeah.
that was just a thing that was taught for them, but I remember those 2. I mean, there's been so many.
Yeah.
You and I do dream, but I'll tell you, this is good for parents too, that even couples, as you dream together, I had to learn that so many times when I'm like, "Babe, man, I was in my quiet time. The Lord told me this. I got this dream. Man, we need to go." And this one would go, "Okay, time out a second. Let me ask some questions." I always took those questions for a longest time. I took those as very negative questions. I even told you at one point in our lives, I told you, I'm like, I feel like every time you dream, all your job is to shoot holes in my dream, and then we never do it. And she was like, "What are you talking about?" I remember she's like, "I'm your biggest fan, and we have traveled." And I remember you said, "I've traveled this whole country together with you. Like, I'm about your dreams." You're
Yeah.
like, "Man, I like to plan a little bit, and I like to think a little." I have to hear the Lord too, and sometimes that's the truth. I hear things that now this dream became a reality because the Lord affirmed it in me.
Yeah.
Well, my spouse can hear the same voice, and God will
Mm.
do that in the right timing. And so even learning us to dream together to be able to go, "Hey, what does this look like?" And now we have much more conversation around our dreams. So we do really kind of dream together as we move forward.
Yeah. I don't wanna over spiritualize it, but I would challenge the parent that is struggling with either choices that your kids are making or not making. Like, have you committed that thing to prayer? There were multiple scenarios, and some of them were little things, when it comes to what team they were gonna play on or what school, or that's not little, but I mean, it's not like life altering, decisions. I would make it a matter of prayer. We both would. We wanted God's best for them. And it would sometimes it wouldn't their kid's choice wouldn't be something I would have chosen, but my prayer would be like, "God, I either need you to change my kid's mind if this isn't what they're supposed to do or if this isn't the best for them, or I need you to change mine." Like, I need to be able to undergird and encourage them, even if it's not a choice or a dream that I would choose.
So good.
And I mean, if I'm honest, that was kind of, Nathan becoming a fireman. That was a dream, and I thought, "Oh gosh," especially with our trauma and our scenario, I don't think I would have ever said, "Hey, that's something I would want for him to choose as a career," right? Me
Hmm.
just being honest because it can be scary. There's unknown, there's danger, there's all those things, but he's thriving.
No.
He's thriving, and it's a matter of, "Okay, God, I need you to soften my my response to things that he's passionate about and he's gifted for." And so it's just that constant back and forth between our Heavenly Father and like that constant letting go of the expectations and the control that we really don't have when
Yeah.
it comes to our kids. All we can do is encourage and steward well.
So I can't talk about a dream podcast without asking, and this is on my list, a
Okay.
final question
Okay.
just to shut this one down. Unless you have something else, you can keep going.
I'm
This is
good.
great.
I'm good.
And again, I think you're very good at this, especially with our boys. I think you really did an exceptional job. So just publicly say that. But
I think you did too. It was 2 of us. It wasn't just me.
correct.
So,
But I'm telling you, I learned that early on watching you do what you do
oh, well,
instead of
thanks.
just, hey, this is the way we do it. What's the dream you have? Like share a dream.
Oh my
It doesn't
gosh.
have to be super deep. Like just or it can be. What's something you're dreaming for, believing in?
Can I say a dream that I just saw come I mean, it would be finishing that book was a big dream. I think I just got past that one. So for me, I think, a fun dream, and we are gonna get there one day, is to go to Switzerland together. That's a fun dream.
That's a great dream.
Yeah, I think that Switzerland looks like a piece of heaven to me, and so I just would love to see that,
That's the one that I'm
but
poking holes in and asking questions like,
yeah.
"Are we sure Switzerland? We really
I'm
wanna
like,
go to
"Buy
Switzerland."
the hiking boots, we're going." Yeah, but
Yeah, but that's a
yeah,
dream we talk about often, and we're figuring out ways to make that happen,
it
and
is, and
to
it feels like
yeah,
such an unreachable goal because it's huge and it's a lot and, all of those things, but I think it's something that if we don't dream, we don't have anything to look forward
yeah,
to. And obviously, we looked forward, heaven and eternity, all those things, but here on earth, there's a lot that we face every day.
yeah.
And so what are the things that encourage us to keep going and to keep, just keep encouraging each other as a couple and as a family? And sometimes that can be little things that we do as a family, and sometimes that can be big things. So I think dreaming is great.
So good,
Yeah,
so good. Well, listen, I'm good if you're good.
I'm good.
I think this was great. Listen,
Unless
we
you wanna share
both
your dream. I don't know if you have a dream.
share my dream. I do have dreams.
Well, then share one of yours.
Okay, well, I was asking
Sorry.
you. Uh, yeah, this was a lot of me asking you questions this
Yeah,
time.
I know,
That's
I
great.
know. I'm like, "What about your
Great
dream?"
conversation. Honestly, I think probably the dream that is really stuck in my crawl that just cannot go
Stuck
anywhere.
in your craw.
The yeah,
Keep going.
that's my Louisiana. It came out right
Yeah,
there.
that
That
came right
moment.
on out.
I really dream that one day you and I have a Broken for Better retreat center where
Oh,
we
yes.
do grief retreats, we do marriage conferences, we do coaching and counseling that people can come as
Mhm,
rest and get a respite away with their family. And I mean, that's
mhm.
one that I've dreamed for a long time. And I just continue to keep it at the top of my like list.
I have an idea. What
I
if
love it.
we
You got
com
a way to make this dream come
what
true.
if we combine our dreams?
And do it
A
in
retreat
Switzerland.
center in Switzerland. Okay, that's probably a good place to end. A retreat
We
center
want a retreat castle
in Switzerland.
in Switzerland.
Call us. Just kidding.
Call us if you have a retreat center in Switzerland. No, but I don't know that I have a place. I just want it to be a space where people can break away, get hope,
Yes.
find rest and solitude in their marriage and whatever they're walking through,
Hmm.
and they can leave empowered and encouraged. There's probably nothing more that I'm driving for right now than that because I mean, I feel like we live a dream, man.
Yeah.
I'm so blessed to do life with you. I have beautiful children and in-laws, and it's just I'm super special. It's super special to me. I'm super special.
You are
I'm
super
super special.
special. You are.
So anyway, listen. Here's what we want to end with. We just want to encourage you. Help your children dream. Let them go further than you could have ever imagined and sit on the sideline and watch. Because I promise you, there's nothing more fulfilling than seeing your children succeed, seeing them go beyond what you could ever imagine as their potential. And if there's fear that's hindering you or stopping you from being that, listen, check that out. Find out why. Work that out of yourself. Get healing in that so that you can be their greatest cheerleader. We'll see you next time.
Thank you so much for watching.
Yeah, we encourage you check us out on all of our socials at Broken for Better for more ways you can be plugged in.
Yes, and if we can help you or your family with anything like coaching or other resources, please connect with us at brokenforbetter.com.